We'll sign. Have y'all signed in?
Milan's German.
Is everybody signing?
No, they're all up there. I'm already done it. Shoot, I can't drink like that, man. I'm gonna go the next day.
Oh, I just. Yeah, I just.
I got a mom and James. Save home doctors. I can't get no. I get buzzed, but I cannot get drunk. I swear to God, I'll be in an old bottle, and I've done it. Sitting, tired, sitting in an old bottle. I'll get buzzed, but never drunk.
I do.
Oh, no.
Did you?
Watching ourselves?
Yeah, we're watching ourselves. Watch ourselves.
I'm upset.
Man,
There we go. There's
I got a big bulb spot. Hope the light don't shine over there. We're blind.
Still hate the thing.
I didn't know there were two sides.
10,000 people.
Which one you need?
I was just having everybody. And nobody would really, since we're rolling right over into the next one.
Yeah. Where are you this whole time?
Well,
We good? Look it up. So it's 1834 and we'll start the agenda class 2 ambulance fee budget hearing, December 21st, 2021. Everybody signed in? There you go, Director. It's your turn to present the.
Well, the way this has worked before, and the way it's worked before, and I assume this year, is we kind of review the same thing that we gave you in draft form last month as sort of the plan that the operations commander and I have come up with for next year. And then the floor is usually open to public comment for the public to weigh in on this. And then during the regular board meeting, which follows this, the board will then take a vote. So a breakdown of what FY 2022 looks like as far as our funding, the total general and ambulance fee, the total increase being 608,000. 176 of that is just to maintain what we're doing now. 5 additional positions would be 431, making our total request 4,542,000. And then on the capital budget, which is a separate topic, we are requesting 1 replacement vehicle, which is part of our long-range plan. That's that was in our plan from, I think it's been there for several years now. And then the radio upgrade issue, we have submitted the radio upgrades as an ARPA project as well. Now, when we submitted that, the quote was 158, I believe, but that pricing expires on December 31st. And the new pricing we have is 171 and change. And that makes our total FY 23 capital request 240. And of course, we're talking about the amount that the ESA would receive, workable funds, not including what's taken off for admin.
Hey, Bob.
Yes, sir.
Radio upgrade, handheld portables and bases.
Portables and mobiles, yes. Okay, so maintenance of effort. Inflation. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention, but inflation is ridiculous this year. We're projecting anywhere from 5 to 10% on just about everything. The most impactful are going to be health insurance and workers' comp. Those are big line items, and health insurance is not uncommon to have a big increase. Same with workers' comp. Of course, everything we believe is, well, we're seeing everything go up in price, EMS supplies, fuel, utilities, everything. Increased depreciation. I'm not the one to speak for that. I still can't fathom how that works exactly. But if you look at what we have to depreciate over next year based on what's in its depreciation cycle, that's where that comes from. We added a few notes in here about the inflation and what's going on with that, where we also included the cost of our years of service increases at 58,000. And I just ask you to keep in mind that our employees don't receive longevity pay, they don't get COLAs, they don't get incentive pay, they don't get merit raises. The only thing our people get are 1.9% per year, period. So as you're looking at those, just keep in mind, that's not in addition to anything else. That is it. And 1.9% year isn't a lot, especially when we've seen prices, inflation go up by 6.2%. That actually leaves our people in the negative. And since inflation is usually about 3% a year, our folks are generally falling 1% behind each year, even with the 1.9. This year, it's going to be even worse. Okay. The 5 additional positions that we're asking for, let me be clear, there's certainly a need for a lot more than 5. And Captain Considine and I struggled with what do we ask for? Do we ask for what we really need, or do we ask what we might have a shot at maybe getting? And in the end, we decided to go with a more realistic number of 5 rather than the 20, 30, 60, 110 that might get us laughed out of town. So our idea with those positions are following our staffing sequence plan. And what we've done here is we've tried to, as best we can, kill 2 birds with 1 stone in cases such as our flex float. Our idea there is that they'll backfill the open shifts, staff that are detailed to whatever it is, the random drug testing or classes or whatnot, and unscheduled vacancies. We'd like to reduce overtime that way and reduce the mandatory holds. The idea is that you have someone that is on a tentative day work schedule and they show up Monday morning at 8 o'clock and someone has called off at a station. We send that person there, go fill the hole until at least 4 o'clock. And if we need to, we keep them for the whole 24-hour shift and then adjust the back end of their schedule. When they're not backfilling something, their first priority would be to respond on the manpower assist, the structure fires, and be an extra set of hands wherever they're needed. The 4 positions that'll be assigned positions, that's a head count of 4, but that's actually one person 24 hours a day at one station. We currently see that being at station 4, and we would move the lieutenants from station 2 to station 4. So there would be 3 people at 4, and then there would be a paramedic and an EMT at station 2. And the lieutenant being at 4 serves a couple purposes. One, they would not be committed to a first due unit anymore. They would be able to get out and supervise, which is currently an issue. We've not had the 24/7 officer be mobile in quite some time. This will allow them to do that. Also, it would put them in the place where they would be available for second due calls or to get on the engine or whatever the case might be. The next section there, we just talk about the capital replacement. I think I already got ahead of myself and talked about that. And then on the back page, I just gave you a breakdown of all the actual numbers so that you have what you have. And now, if you'd like to interrogate me or open the floor for questions or whatever your pleasure is.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment too. I know, and I understand your rationale behind the 5, asking for the 5 positions.
Yes, ma'am.
But I've always thought it's always great to present to the commission what the need is. If it's 27 head count to fill the service in the county, ask for that. You're not going to get that, but, or 30, whatever the number is.
Understood.
But everybody's got to understand what the need is to provide the service in the county. And the budget won't allow us to give you 27 head count right now or whatever, but I think people need to realize what the demand is and what the need is in the county and how much head count it'll actually take to provide 24/7 coverage of
Understood.
fully staffed. So I don't see anything wrong with putting the big number out there so everybody understands that this is what's needed, even though you may only get 4 or 5 positions or 3 positions. It's making people understand that this is the demand right now to provide the service for this county, and we're still growing.
I am more than happy to, I think you're okay with it?
I mean, that's just my comment.
No, when you-
Again, I know
When the
what
board,
what the need is. out there.
when the board, votes on what to do with this, I would consider it friendly to amend what I've done here to include the bigger number in the actual meeting.
I mean, I just think it's fine to have the expectation of 4 or 5 positions, but I think the whole public needs to know exactly what the demand is right now for
Yeah.
that level of
I agree.
coverage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you?
I agree with that too.
Do you have an idea of what would be ideal? If you could staff it the way absolutely what Commissioner Jackson said, and
I believe it's 119.
119, how many more people would you actually have?
119.
119 more?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's a big number.
Now, you see why we hesitated?
Yeah. Well, I certainly think you're well within your right to ask for many more than what you're asking for.
Well,
The other thing that I really would be commenting on would be I have a question on the replacement vehicle. Do you have an idea where that vehicle would be coming from and just what, is that new or used?
We've been working for the last 5 years or so to try and get rid of the used vehicles, the hand-me-downs that we've gotten from the sheriff department and the county fleet. And we're almost there. As far as it would be new, where would it be coming from? That's a good question. It's very hard to get vehicles right now. You all authorized the purchase of another vehicle months ago. It's not ordered because there's nothing out there.
Which would possibly be going in with the state or outside of West Virginia, even maybe, and looking about going in on a package with some other jurisdiction to get the best price and the best vehicle that we can.
Absolutely.
So
I've looked at what I've done when we've looked at vehicles before is I looked at the West Virginia contract. The state police used to be under the purchasing division. They are out on their own now, where the West Virginia State Police does their own purchasing. The lady named Carol there that does that, I check with her and see what kind of pricing she has. I also look at the West Virginia State contract, which they don't do police vehicles anymore, but sometimes you can find that the pricing quote will include certain models that do need the special service or police pursuit type of vehicles. And we're not interested in go fast. We're interested in the upgraded brakes and upgraded suspension and things that are going to last a while. Then the next thing is we look at the statewide contracts in other states that require that they be extended to not just their state. So for instance, in Maryland, the statewide contracts include a clause that says the vendor has to honor net pricing for any state government or political subdivision thereof. So we're eligible in Maryland. We also are eligible in Pennsylvania and in Virginia.
Okay.
So I try to look at all of those contracts and see who has what, and also what the status of those, the location and status of the dealers.
Mhm.
What we found years ago was that the state contracts in West Virginia for vehicles are usually in Boone County. So to get that vehicle from Boone County, it costs money. You have to pay people to go down or pay for delivery or whatever. So you end up adding 1,000 or more to what it's really costing you. And so it's generally much cheaper. The last place we purchased from in Pennsylvania, they deliver included in the cost, and the cost is less than the West Virginia contract. So it was that's a no-brainer. So we try to weigh all those factors to make sure we're getting truly the best deal.
one other statement I'd like to make is on the radio system. I support the amount for this radio system wholeheartedly. In the past 30 days, I've had a lot of time to listen to our radios and be aware more of what our communication system is really like that all of you folks are operating under. Coming from the world of law enforcement, I know that that radio is your lifeline. And so I support wholeheartedly at this point, absolutely everything he's asking for.
I have another question, Bob. So the medical insurance, when is it renewable?
So medical insurance renews the agency's renewal is October 1st, which always makes it very tricky because we're trying to budget for starting in July for something that isn't going to happen until October. And we usually don't know what our rates are going to be until very shortly before. Usually they come in with a number, whatever it is, and then our broker goes back and gently begs for, I forget what he calls it, but basically a lower rate. We've been successful, usually to the tune of getting a 3% discount each year with that reconsideration request. So we hope we're successful with that again. And if we are, that's awesome.
Okay, and so your all's policy is independent from the county's policy?
Yes, if we were on the county policy, it would be more expensive.
Okay.
Our demographic is different than the county's.
Mhm.
Our population tends to be, I would say, less expensive to insure.
Yeah, the county's got an HRA, that's why.
We have an HRA as well.
Okay,
We follow basically the same, we offer the same policy to our employees that county employees receive. However, we're able to offer it to the employees here at a lower price because our premiums are lower than the county's.
I had two things. On behalf of the association, we talked about this at our last association meeting, and it was a unanimous decision of the association that whatever positions are granted to this agency is, we would like to see those positions be put back into station 6 and 7, with the priority being on station 6. We see the value in this, but yet we would prefer, and like I said, a unanimous decision to see it go back to station 6 and 7, which again, the priority being station 6 first, depending on what we're able to get for manpower. And the other question we had was not the radios themselves, but we couldn't figure out why is there 10 mobile units needed. I hope we don't have 10 mobile vehicles, but we don't. But that was a huge concern that the association wanted to bring to the board. Anyone have any comments or?
Sorry, I don't want to step anywhere where I'm supposed to.
No.
And you know, and both Bob and Sarah was at the meeting, so they're very aware of what we're bringing back. It's not a surprise to them.
There are, yes, we were, no surprise here. There are 10 mobile vehicles, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure I'm not, keep in mind, we have the van that transports the deceased. We have the vehicle that's not in the field front running anymore, that's a backup that is serving two purposes, a backup for a down chase car and a backup in case we need it for deceased transport. Our van has been great to us, but it's the van. We have one, and I don't think anybody wants to be in the position of having to transport deceased people in the ambulances ever again. So we're trying to avoid that. We have a vehicle at station 2, we have a vehicle at station 5, we have a vehicle at station 4, and then we have the 3 staff vehicles here. I think if you have that up, there should be 10.
I sent you a picture of all of what I wrote on my board.
Okay.
Well, just food for thought would be like, could the van and then in backup units you had, could they be utilized as a person, utilize a portable instead of the mobile?
They sure could. I mean, they could.
I'm only talking, but that's 4 mobiles you could save money on. I don't know how much money that is, but every penny helps.
Is that van being used still to haul deceased?
It is.
Yeah.
And I knew Blue Ridge was hauling a lot, so I didn't know.
Yeah,
if
they
that
are.
was I guess they're splitting that. So now that
We'll do all
works.
medical examiner, and if they're not available, we take care of their.
Do the mobile radios also include the mobile that you have set up as a base station here?
Yes.
But that was the association's biggest concern, more concern on the additional personnel, whatever we, if you grant anyone, we would like to see them go to station 6 and 7. Again, with the priority being station 6 first.
Yeah, I totally support that, Mr. Moore, as far as getting middle way covered with their call volume. We'll be both if they're needed, but those county residents do pay an ambulance fee, so I think they should have the same access as everybody else. I believe.
What was the reason that we removed them to begin with? I wasn't here for that.
It boiled down to our two main priorities were responder safety and reducing response times, and that's very difficult to do with one provider in a station.
Gotcha.
You lose the provider safety aspect when you have one person working in a station alone, responding alone. And you also are not doing much for helping the response time, because they unless it is a Delta or Echo call, they can't respond right away. They have to wait 5 minutes to see if a volunteer comes. And once they do, they can't go on the scene unless it's a cardiac arrest where they can start CPR. So we were not, it wasn't doing much for response time, especially in areas that have a very, very low call volume, particularly in the Bakerton area. It was about 3% of the county's call volume. So we run as many mutual aid calls out of the county as we do in the Bakerton area. And in the Middleways situation, we went through all the data and the geospatial analysis and everything, looking at where things are. I can say that we're talking, it's December and we're talking about July. And certainly if things are not the way they are in March, April, May, as they are right now, then by all means, we're not going to bury our heads in the sand and keep doing what we said our December plan was. I also understand, and I don't have any direct knowledge, but I understand that the study that the commission has commissioned is also going to review where we are placing our staffing, and whatever statistics they do, make recommendations. I suspect they're going to support what we've established, but who knows? They may come back and say, oh, you should be putting people here, there, and everywhere. I don't know.
So just from a citizen's perspective, the rationale behind is basically they'd be better served by adding the extra to a more well-staffed station versus having to wait all that extra time. Even though they're closer, their response time is longer. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, and to help Middleways and Perry, but more so the Middleways concern of it too, where they've been paying people both Midway and Beckerton, some volunteers, different hours of the day to get their ambulance out. So, we were thinking that if that did happen, maybe Middleway could have enough coverage of a volunteer to drive, and then a career staff, then they could make up the career. It would reduce the response time. There's a lot of different things. But yeah, as long as, like Bob said, they don't have the head buried in the sand on this particular, but that's where the association would like to see.
Do we have a number? Can we get that information
just
on
missed-
like their volume, call volume for Middleway? Like for this, where we're at for this year?
That's a good idea, yeah. We'll figure out exactly how many.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, are we up, is Middleway running more now since than they did last year?
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
It's in, I think it's in our
Is it?
regular agenda packet,
Okay.
right? That's in it.
In the
The
regular.
other
stuff?
pack-
Yeah, when we switch to that meeting.
Okay.
And I will, as we have every year before, we'll bring back to the board in the spring, kind of the year over year, the long range, what the data is, what the trends are, and
wanna sign that?
what we're thinking.
For this meeting? Are you done, Bob, with giving your presentation?
Well, I've been done with my presentation.
Well, okay. Anybody else, any other board members have any other questions, comments for Bob?
So this new vehicle, I just want to be clear, this new vehicle you're asking, that would be a chase car, not for like a director's vehicle. Is that what we're asking? Is that what you're asking for? Or?
I can't drive two vehicles. So, yeah, it would be, yeah. Yes, we chased on that.
Yeah, I didn't know if he was replacing your vehicle or not, so that's why I was asking. I just making sure. Okay.
Mine is the oldest one in fleet right now and the highest mileage, and I'm fine with that. And that one's already in the replacement plan just for that purpose.
Nope. Sounds like all the board is ready, so. Chief Koval, would you like to have 5 minutes at this meeting? For public comment?
Yeah, two meetings.
This
Yeah.
is the public hearing for the.
This is the ambulance fee meeting, and then the regular meeting will start at 1900.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
I guess I was invited to come here to kind of give an update on what's going on with our building situation.
Okay,
We
that's-
want to defer that. for the
we'll have that
next
for the
meeting.
next meeting.
Yeah.
That's for the next.
I don't
Oh, okay.
have it for you now.
Okay.
You have anything, chief?
Mr. Bethard, do you have public comment for them?
He's for the main.
For the next one.
Meeting. Well, we have nobody there for that one. So if nothing else, we will close up the annual ambulance meeting. Thank you, Director, for. It looks like. Okay. Need a motion to close this meeting?
Yeah, I think
For a
I would
special
recommend
meeting?
hearing and then convene the regular
That's one more.
meeting.
So moved.
So I've got Twiggy giving a motion to close the ambulance. Can I get a second?
Second.
Stillwell, give it a second. Anybody have any other comments or questions?
Did we decide to approve the budget?
Are we approving it?
That's gonna be. in the-
That, we have to do that in the regular meeting.
Gotcha. Right.
Can I, those in favor of closing the ambulance meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ambulance meeting is closed. And
Wow, that was right on time.
couldn't do much stuff.
That's well done. Was that on purpose? Or?
Now I gotta wait one more minute before I can start the meal. You gonna give you the sign sheet for the first. Okay, it's 1900 and I'll call to order this month's meeting of the Jefferson County Emergency Services Board. Vicki, will you lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Looks like all board members are signed in. Anybody else wanting to sign in for public comments? So let's look, Mr. Bethard, would you like to have your first comment?
Sure. In deference to the other meeting, if you're gonna make one of those vehicles a chaplain vehicle, I'm all in. Evening, everybody. I'm John Bethard, chaplain for the ESA, and it's been a few years since I've been in this position, and I just want to say that I can't always make this meeting, but I can make it tonight, so here I am. I just want to thank you all for just helping make that be a small part of what we're able to do for our providers. I consider it a privilege and an honor to serve our providers in that role. And I do want to thank the ESA board formally because you've done a lot with Elizabeth to help make mental health the first provider's priority. And I just want to encourage you to continue to do whatever you can for that. I'm not There's no criticism buried in that comment. Just, it's, pandemic's been hard on everybody. You all know that first provider work is hard work when things are good. And the pandemic has done nothing but make that even more challenging for all the folks that work with us. So thank you for that. Thank you for helping them. And thank you for the opportunity to serve our first providers. And if you want to ask me any questions, you can. But just glad to be here tonight. Glad to do that work for this group. And it's I love doing it. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think we're going to bring you up in
Unfinished.
or new business or unfinished?
Unfinished,
Unfinished.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, did you have any other just plain comments that you wanted to give before the board? Okay, thanks, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if the, I mean, I'm not telling you what to do, but if the board's okay, you can arrange the agenda how you want.
I think just keep it in unfinished is fine. Marshall, did you have something you wanted to?
No, I'll pass.
Okay,
Thanks.
so that looks like everybody who had something, so if nobody else, okay. So let's go on to, can I get approval of the minutes from our last meeting? Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? Thank you, sir. Can I get a second? Thank you. All those in favor of approving the minutes from last month, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Mr. Harris, or the director, if you have the treasurer's report, please.
As of November 30th, accounts show that we have $640,274 in the general, $119,806 payroll, $278,619 in the ambulance fee, and $148,831 for the mortgage. As of today, the total checks that were written were 13 and signed by the director, Berner, and myself, for the grand total of $57,218.97. They were all signed since our last meeting. That's the end of my report.
Sir. I do not have a chairman's report since I guess I'm kind of the impromptu one for now.
The treasurer's report. So moved. to
Can I
approve
get a
the treasurer's-
second?
Second.
All in favor of approving treasurer's report, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I'll have a report from local 5351.
That's me.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
That's
Josh wasn't here tonight. For those of you that don't know me, Theodore signed. I go by Mike. A lot of people know me Mike. I'm the new president for the local. We're still working on getting all our stuff done, our business license and all that stuff. So there's really not a lot going on. Just happy to be here tonight.
Thanks, sir. The association report, sir?
Yeah, I can do it real quick. The update, mainly our meeting was talked about was the budget request we spent a lot of time on. And then also we talked about what we said earlier about the ESA budget as far as where the personnel should go and whatnot. And the only other thing is the Daniel Turner, which is independent fire company, several months ago has volunteered to try to do some countywide training with the emphasis at the training center when the weather is decent. But long story short, he's putting together a training session coming up middle of January, and Shepherdstown Fire Department got him a dorm at Shepherd University to use for training. So, and that would be open to the county. So that's just some good news to pass on. And then the budget request, I made copies. I'm not very good at clerical work, so here passing down. Would that Devin get one?
Debbie, did you get one?
I think, yeah, hold on. I think I got enough. Two this way? You know, did all board members have one?
You talk about transparency, man, golly.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna read the whole thing by no means, but as you can see in the cover letter, at our December meeting that we unanimously agreed that all of us would create this worksheet that was created when we did the proposed fee back middle of last year. So that was sent out to all the departments, they sent it all back. So as you can see in your packet, what was included. And I know that probably the first thing when people look at the big numbers, there's a $3,183,950. I'm pretty sure that's gonna put the county commissioners in a shock. But it is what it is. So that each page will explain what the department's actual expenses were the past year. It's about as true as blue as you can get. To the best of our knowledge, we know that the county commission cannot even begin to think about supporting this, but I think as Commissioner Jackson pointed out earlier, to put it all out there. So there it is, and we hope that the commissioners will realize what we're going through and to come up with a figure. We did not want to go back to the same old days of let's all step, even Stephen, let's do a 80,000 or 100,000. We just, this is what it is. We hope you all hope the commission use the best judgment moving forward. I know that it's a little bit different than what the figure was. I think when the presentation was done in September, I think I was like a little over $1.5 million. Those numbers came from numbers from a year ago. And also those numbers were really rough. They were broad. There were only like 7 or 8 categories that we pulled from. Depreciation was not included in that. So that's another reason why that number seems so different than it was in the past September. So if you have any questions, I can try to answer. Or if you go through each one, if you have a question for an individual department, by all means, you can call them and talk to them. But that's what we requested to do. And then also, it kind of meets the needs of what was requested a couple months ago about our wants and needs list. Of course, just a list of needs, there's no wants on this list. If we wants, we could make it a lot more. So, and again, if you have any questions, because Marshall, I gave you credit where credit's due. Marshall one put all these charts together for me, but I'm not that smart. But all these line items were a group effort of all 7 departments over the past 8 months. We had several meetings to put all this together, and so that's where all that came from. But if you have any questions, we can try to answer. Or if not, that's all I have to report.
Yes, I do.
Oh,
I always have my question.
Everybody, Marshall?
Yeah.
Well, no, so I appreciate you guys doing this. I think one of the questions that Bob Foss had when we first started this, and he did say wants and needs, but an inventory list of your current, I guess, apparatus or equipment. Does, no, okay. I'm just,
At this point, Commissioner Jackson, we've received this year's submissions from everyone except Company 2, correct?
Yes.
So we have 6 of the companies' packets that includes the 990s, the member roster, the apparatus inventory, licenses, all that jazz. And as I mentioned before, I really think it's important for this board to see that stuff so that we're not asking the volunteers to provide the same thing again. And so if you direct us to provide that to you, however you want, it'll happen.
yeah, because I mean, well, maybe I'm not
Yeah.
that far down. I'm seeing like vehicle insurance and I'm seeing like replacement and maintenance, like the hose replacement and maintenance. I'm not, ladder replacement, maintenance. I'm not actually saying that you have, 2 tankers, 2 ladder trucks, 2, that, I think that's what,
It would be baked into the vehicle maintenance costs, so that's a line item. And then, well, sorry, Mr. Chairman, am I allowed to speak? Okay.
He's speaking on my.
he deferred. He
I didn't want to get yelled at. We got beauty up front, we got the brains. in the back.
It would be baked into the other costs, so.
Okay.
So, I think if the other thing you can consider in that vehicle maintenance line would be age of apparatus. So if you look at them side by side, you'll see like Bakerton and Middleway they don't have as much apparatus by count as maybe Shepherdstown or Independent, but their costs are is just as high because they're older apparatus, so they're breaking more frequently. Whereas ours are in 70,000, I think, because we have, a little bit more. Theirs are in the 70,000 because theirs are 35 years old. So it is all baked into that. The other point I was going to request to make was that when you look at side by side, it's really actually an awesome data point to be able to see that nobody's way in left field. Like everybody is in, when you look at our fuel costs, everybody's in that, Bakerton, I think, is like 3,500. They run the fewest amount of calls. Independence at 30 something, 20, high 20s, they run the most money. So it makes sense. There was one anomaly there, but we think that was just a clerical error on their part. But you can ask them about that. I won't.
Okay.
42.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know what that number, but that's the number we were given. So that's what we went with. But everybody else, the other 6 are all relative to kind of their response areas, the amount of calls they're running. So that showed a consistency in the data.
Okay. Thank you.
I might add, since you have one commissioner here, is that I know for the past 15+ years, and a lot more commissioners prior to yourself, we have been asked and asked and asked, and we have provided over and over different forms, different figures, different ideas and everything at the request of the commissioners. And all it does is falls in file 13. It does not go anywhere. And I'm probably gonna, well, I'm convinced to say that the association is supporting this. This is the final one we're gonna do. This is detailed as you can get. And this poor old can, we've been kicking down the road for 20 years. There's no more can left to kick. And it just kind of helps emphasize that the commissioner, somebody has got to come up with some kind of idea of whether to support a fee, a levy, or get the money somewhere else. But this cannot continue, and we're not going to continue to come up with these big facts and figures every year, and nothing happens with them. So we are at our wit's end.
Well, and the reason I asked, and I think Bob Foss was onto that asking too, is making a case for a fee or a levy, either one, is citizens understanding, again, what it takes to provide the service. And I don't think we necessarily did a great job with the ambulance fee and rolling that out and educating people on what that's for. I still have questions over that every time I talk to someone.
No, you're right.
So
It wasn't done.
we gotta educate and make people understand why this is needed, particularly if we're gonna ask them to pay a levy or a fee. And then what the demand is to provide the service.
Because we
And
need the support from the commission.
Right.
Also.
Yes,
If,
yes.
You know, like, again, for 15 years or more, we would get it in the beginning, then it just kind of like falls off the end of the world and they kind of forget about it. And that cannot continue to happen. So we want to support the commission, do whatever they can do. You know, if you come up with money some other way, we don't care where you get the money from. We want to take that.
You take a check?
well,
Play Fireball.
they all take.
But that's all. I don't want to, I think everybody can see it. So
Weren't we talking last meeting, once we got this, we would discuss as a fire board, whether like to actually state like, do we support you guys? We discussed that before.
That is
Well,
where
we-
you're
I know we
at.
gotta,
What Chairman Foss had declared several months ago is
Yeah.
that this, as a fire board, we've read the law now and understand that it's this body's responsibility to put forward a request to the commission.
yeah,
So the association is bringing you this information and saying, this is what we need.
Yeah.
Huh?
So
Did we-
I guess I'm hoping this board, we're hoping this board will support this also.
I think it would be,
When we present it.
yes. That, so the point is for this board to be behind the initiative of what the fire association's trying to accomplish. And hopefully somebody on this board sets in and supports that initiative for any future presentations or moving forward with whatever the commission decides to do.
right.
Instead of the fire association being out there by themselves, this board serves as fire board.
Sure.
So we're just trying to get the house in order, so to speak, and
Consolidate.
Yeah, makes sense.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Now the director's report. Is anybody gonna put forth, did you want to put forth a motion? Is that what?
Yeah, I guess I'll motion that we as a fire board support this effort here to bring it to the commission. In a second.
So the motion is that the Jefferson County Emergency Services Agency Board is in full support of Jefferson County.
JCFRA's budget request. New budget request, right?
Okay.
Before we go to vote, quick question. I mean, so if we're voting on this to advance it, what are we gonna do about the 5 positions? I'd like to see something in there to where at least we know middle way is gonna be covered. I mean, I don't wanna vote for 5 positions and then middle way's left sitting empty or Baker.
No, that's two different things.
Yeah, this is separate.
This is a support vote that we support what
Support their funding.
the fire association is taking before the county commission.
They
And that
made a
we
pretty-
see value in this document.
Yeah,
I would actually like to suggest that we table this till next week. We just got the numbers
fair enough.
and they've changed slightly, correct? Than what was actually presented, the numbers.
The figure.
I'd like to
Fair.
look at this and
Fair.
make,
No, none reason to
I'm
request
just
at all. It's
suggesting that.
perfectly valid. Yeah, we asked for it, we gave it, we take some time to review the numbers.
Certainly
That's my first
provide to the
motion.
board the financial packets that they've submitted. How would you like those? Do you want those in just sent to each board member, or do you want those included?
I think that would only help to support this, is that if the
Well,
board
I
members.
If you want to, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Well,
um,
here,
you-
we have a motion. Do we have a second for the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Well, you weren't supposed to second, then I could have.
I know,
No,
but
I don't want to keep.
So we'll
the
second
can
the
on
motion.
I know, but we can do that.
So all in
And then
favor of supporting the document put forth by the fire association, please say aye.
I would like to move that we place this on the table for 1 month.
Well, I gotta get his motion off the table and
Now, you
then
don't,
he's already put it up and you seconded
I
it.
understand that, but if I'm bringing up a motion to put it on the table and not to vote on it until next month, we can do that. You can do that with a motion.
Anybody got Robert's Rules of Order around?
That's Robert's rule, trust me. It is Robert's rules. Believe me.
Okay.
It supersedes the original motion.
I wasn't originally gonna put a motion in. So.
Okay. So all in favor of Twiggy's motion of putting this on the table till the next January meeting? Do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
All in favor of tabling our support of the association report till next meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Now, next meeting, all we have to do is bring this up. We don't have to get another motion to vote on it
Gotcha.
because we've already got one.
Okay. So that's tabled. Now the director, if you'd like to give us your report.
Yeah, watch this. We presented a check to the breast cancer awareness, or I always forget what the A is, of the Cumberland Valley. Ticket awareness on December 16th for $2,018.02. That was part of our t-shirt. Those proceeds from our t-shirt October drive for them. I'm gonna switch to number 3 and we'll come back to number 2. The office, like the other county offices, is closed December 23rd, 24th, and then on the 30th and 31st. And then the item that requires your attention is the budget draft proposal. And what we'll be looking for there is a motion to support us in presenting this to the commission. And as I said earlier, certainly, if you could word that in a way that would allow us to change that number of staff significantly higher, I'd be happy to do that. And I think that would also satisfy Mr. Stillwell's request to see, because there'd be a much larger number of staff and therefore other stations would be included. That's it.
I move we approve the budget, giving the JCESA the ability to change and up the number of personnel that they are asking for.
We have a motion on the table. Anybody second?
You want to go beyond the 5?
Huh?
The option to go beyond the 5?
Yes.
Yeah, it's okay that he's got 5 in there. I think he ought to make it clearer to what's really needed when he asks for headcount.
So basically, they would sit down and say,
Yeah.
you know, this is what we were gonna do with 5. What could we do with 25? You know, knowing fully well that they're not gonna ask for the 119 that they said they needed, because there's no way that's happening. But they could also ask for more and possibly get, you
Make
know,
it
if they
flexible.
ask for 25, maybe they'll get 12. You know, you don't know.
Second.
Have a second? So all in favor of Twiggy's motion of presenting this, but with an amendment and a change to the draft before it's presented to the commission, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And it passes.
For the record, Mr. Chair, my report was shorter than Ross.
Thanks, Bob. There you go, Bob.
Hey, Director, that's not good.
So unfinished business. Okay, Chief, it's your turn to give us an update of what's going on up on the mountain.
I've been working on, with Jeff Whitaker at Agriculture 2000s on the plans and stuff for the addition at this main station. I do have some plans that we've finally come up with for addition. We hired to hire a structural engineer guy from North Carolina because of the incline of the side of the hill where we're putting the addition. It's got to be tied back into the footers and the foundation of the original structure. So I have some drawings here of what it's going to be. Basically now all we're doing is waiting on the structural engineer to come and do his blessing stuff. So we can take and start getting our prices on walls, how he wants the walls constructed, how he's going to do the footers, the whole 9 yards. But we are in the process of moving forward. It's been a long time coming, but it's going to be costly. As soon as we get things going, I got a guy ready to get started with trying to help us get it done. So got a contractor that's not going to charge us nothing to do the construction. It's just the groundwork is going to be the most expensive part. So
Which station are you talking about?
the main station,
The one over.
he's got. Yeah. So, it's 30, it's 81 feet long. It's 22 feet wide. It'll be tier stepped because of the way the ground and stuff is. It's gonna have 4 bunk rooms in it. It'll have a laundry room, it'll have an office. The office is probably gonna be bigger than any office in any other fire department. It's gonna be well worth the time and efforts to get it done. It's just gonna be costly. So something for the county commissioners to think about as you keep cutting the budgets. The more you cut the budgets, the less you can do. So, we need support too. So we're gonna make it happen.
Is Chief, I had a question for you. Is there any way, have you guys looked at maybe doing any upgrades at the substation, like adding on there or anything? Like, where's your most call volume? And your most call volume gonna be on that side, or is it kind of?
It's hit and miss. I mean, it's hit and miss. I mean, there's 188 miles of road in Shenandoah, and you got all the other side of the mountains. I mean, it's a hit and miss. You might run 10 calls in Shenandoah one week and 20 in the other side of the mountain the next week. So it's you can't put a finger on where the call volume is going to be at. So
Where's the most population though? Isn't it gonna be Shenandoah?
well, the most population is in Shenandoah, but I mean, you can't time consuming. If we could take an upgrade to substation, that would be great. The problem is there's no water there. And you're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars to put a sprinkler system in for a substation. And getting the blessings from the diocese of Charleston for that piece of property to add on to that facility.
Will they, are they requiring a sprinkler system for the new?
That is correct. And I have a 6-inch main already running down to the back of the station. So
Yeah,
that's
from Mr.
they're
Snyder.
going to come
Okay.
off with a 4-inch and tap right into us. So that's where we'll start. And then hopefully we can take and get that done and then eventually put a couple extra bays at the substation to add on over there. But it's just, there's no water source over it. If the Snyder runs water up there, it'd be a whole lot easier, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. So,
Did you talked to me earlier about.
yeah, I got one other thing. I've been talking to the sheriff, in which we had our parade Sunday on the mountain, and it went very well. The sheriff was there, and I'm working on a carport or a garage for the public safety building to park the ambulance or a chase car and stuff in for the winter time until all this is done. That way, everything will be housed. He is working with Becky at the planning and zoning to get permits because it belongs to them. I can't get permits because it belongs to the sheriff's department. So we're going to work on getting that done as soon as he gets his stuff together to get that. We're going to put a carport or a garage there until we get this facility complete. And sheriff is very, very nice, and he is never going to kick us out. He just asks us to respect the place, take care of the place, and I think these guys are doing a great job. So I figure if we can put a carport up there until we get everything done, at least it keeps the vehicles out of the weather for winter time.
I have a
So-
question. So who's absorbing the cost of the carport or garage, the sheriff's office or?
Blue Ridge Mountain Volunteer Fire
Okay.
Company,
Do you know how much that's gonna cost?
not right offhand.
Okay, because I'm just thinking that you've got putting pending construction on one at Keys Gap and you're.
Right,
it would
well,
Probably be,
I'm also trying to look at them coming out in the winter time for snow and ice on their vehicles, of trying to
Yeah.
go to a call and
well, no, aren't they running the chase car out of the substation or out of the public safety house now to go to the ambulances in the,
and setting
They-
that
But
aside.
it's parked outside.
oh, the ambulances?
Uncovered.
Yeah, so
No,
we're-
Oh, the chase
Chase
car.
car.
Okay,
So
okay.
we're trying to cover it where if they come out, it's covered and, don't have to wait for ice to go off the windows and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess my
So-
concern is they going to the expense of putting that in and dedicating the time and
Right.
resources to just getting the station up.
Right, well, I mean, I'm trying to make it easier for the guys and girls that come out at midnight.
Right.
If you got 3 inches of snow in the windshield, you got a cardiac arrest, that's somebody's loved one laying there, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's, everything's expensive now, and I mean, this is one thing that the county commissioners need to know, that we've been beating a dead wagon for a long time with the Fire and Rescue Association to get money. And it just keeps getting cut. Same way with the ambulance fee. You know, the ambulance fee they started at $85 and went down to $35. I mean, it just, the biggest problem is we always talk about the communities. It starts at the county commission because the county commission is always the ones that chops us out money for fee. So, you know, yeah, the community needs to be educated. I agree with that 100%. And we all can do that. But we also got to have the support from the county commission.
I get all of that, and I know what everybody's saying, but we also have to be sensitive to the people that live in the county and the taxes they're paying, and that they've taken hits. They're taking hits with inflation too, and we can only do
Right.
so much with
Well, that's
what we
like us
have.
with fundraising, you know what I mean?
Right.
We beat the dead wheel every day of fundraising.
Right.
So it's kind of like throwing a tax to them, but we're doing fundraising, they're glad to support it. But you just don't get enough off of that.
Right.
Because we don't have the business support on the other side of the rivers they have in the rest of the county, That's the thing, you know. Well, we have a lot of gracious people up on the mountain that's doing a great job for us. So, I mean, I greatly appreciate it. So,
I think you're all doing a hell of a job. A lot of people on that mountain in Shenandoah, you guys a lot, especially in the last 30 days.
just so you know, the sheriff is going to start beating the door down about a second way and a second way out of Shenandoah.
We need that.
He's hell bent
we need
about it.
that.
So that's going to be another thing that's going to be on the agenda to take a fight about. So,
Yeah, well, we can get the state involved in that. I don't think a second way out. I think an evacuation route is probably more easy to sell than an alternative route out.
When you
That's
get a
too
major
late.
fire in Shenandoah, everybody's screwed.
No, I'm saying an evacuation route
Right,
is probably more cost efficient and effective,
yeah,
or easier to sell than,
yeah, because it's just a matter of time.
Oh, I
mean,
know.
We had that young man.
that's why we repealed the ATV ordinance. Now nobody has ATVs, you know? But for ways to get out of there, because yeah, if there's a fire at the beginning of Mission Road, people are,
We
trapped.
had that. The only thing that saved us that morning when that young man ran from the law enforcement, he flipped and his car burst in flames before gate 1 and Mountainside. The only thing that saved us all was that the wind wasn't blowing. If not, we'd all been trapped.
Yeah, once you pass gate 5, you're done. There's no way out.
Well, anything between Mission and gate 1, if it's blocked up, we're out. We found that out the other night when y'all had the other fire.
We're going to take care of y'all staffing, so we'll make sure they're safe. That's all that matters.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else have any questions or comments for the chief? Okay. Thank you, sir.
You guys want these copies to look at? I mean, you're more welcome to them. I got them.
Just a drum in the car for it, or-
Yeah, I'd like
This
to
is
copy.
the station.
You wouldn't mind? Thank you.
oh, it's the draft of the,
She's gonna make some copies.
And number 2 on is,
I don't think I really have anything to update on the roles and responsibilities. I think we've established what type of role that we're gonna serve as in conjunction or as a fire board, ESA and fire board. So I really don't have any updates on that. I think we're moving forward with the association on getting what we need.
takes us to new business. As we all know that Bob had some things in his professional and personal life that just made it more difficult for him to get here on a consistent basis. So he has resigned as the association's rep to the fire, to the board. So can I get a motion to accept Bob Foss's resignation from JCESA?
I'll make the motion to accept it.
And the second?
Second.
All those in favor of accepting Bob Foss's resignation letter from the JCSA, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Debbie left and I have one.
Move.
Oh, Steve made the motion and Jacob, second.
So Harrison Harris.
Harrison Harris.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
There are way too many Harrises in this side of the country.
One's old and one young.
Which now brings us to the next, and that's to replace Bob as the chairman of the board. There are any either people who would like to put forth a name or would like to put forth their own name as a replacement for the chairman of the JCESA.
Nominate Craig Simpson.
Nominate Tony Johnson.
Any seconds on Twiggy's nomination?
Oh, we just
I don't
vote,
think we
right?
need-
you don't need
You
a
don't
second.
second, we just vote.
Because there's,
Yeah.
what's it go?
Am I right, Greg?
So there's two nominations that are put forth on the table, one of those being Twiggy and one of them being me. All in favor of voting for Twiggy as the next chairman of the JCESA, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. One, two, three, four, five.
Okay.
All-
Secretary, I'm sorry.
All those wishing to vote for my nomination as the next chairman, please signify by saying aye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Vicky? You're now the new chairman of the JCESA.
And you just understand.
Man.
Doing my best. You're doing such a good job.
First command decision.
Never want to be the number one. I was always told, be the last one on the scene and the first one to leave. Mr. Harris, you have something new on the new business community and emergency notification system.
It's my bit of a presentation here is going to fall in with kind of like what we've all been talking about here. Goes definitely along with what the chief from Company 5 has brought up. In the past 30 days, I live in Shenandoah, Josh lives in Shenandoah, Richard lives in, Commissioner Jackson lives in Shenandoah. And we're really aware of what Company 5 and all the other thankful, the other companies and even out-of-state companies have had to respond to Shenandoah to put out fires here in the last 30 days, fires that should have never happened to begin with, but they did. Some of the things that a lot of the people in the mountain are unaware when we have an emergency. And as it's already been brought up, that we have one way in and one way out, and that's Mission Road. So 2 Saturday nights ago, Mission Road was shut down out past Gate 1 when we had the fire up there on the Morningside, I think it was. Mountainside. At one point in time, because of apparatus and some other situations, Mission Road was shut down. That meant nothing was getting on, nothing was getting off. If flames, and the thing that I see is a really serious problem. If flames or hot embers would have passed over Mission Road and caught the other side of the road on fire, that's it. No fire people, no fire apparatus, nobody that lives on the mountains getting off, period. The best you can hope for is you can swim across the river. I lived up at Gate 4. I live at Gate 1 now. My wife and I used to live up over 20 years ago, up at Gate 4. I can remember looking across the mountainside over behind the old club area and watching that whole mountain on fire over there. And it took, what, 3 or 4 days to get that under control. Luckily, all the fire departments were able to respond and a joint effort, they got it under control, and a lot of houses and a lot of lives were saved. My point in all this is that if we have a situation that happens, luckily my house backs up to Mission Road. So whenever the ambulances and the fire department, the sheriff's department, anybody's coming in, we hear the sirens and we're able to put ourselves on alarm and know what's taking place up in Shenandoah. But there's a lot of people up on that mountain and way far back that have no idea anything's even happening. And if this is 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, our people are in bed asleep, and we've got a fire with winds like what we just had here this past week, raging the way it was raging. Next thing you know, you got people trapped. No one has any idea anything's happening, and they can't get out if they wanted to get out. So one of the things that I'm a major proponent, have been for a number of years, is a second way off the mountain as well. But in the meantime, until we can work and try to get something like that pushed through, we need some sort of a community emergency notification system in place up there on the mountain, even if it's a reverse 911 system, where people in Shenandoah itself are able to sign up and put their phone numbers, not only their residential phone number, but their cell phone numbers into a communication system, and people can be notified in the middle of the night. I have a question for Chief Caldwell. We don't have any kind of an alarm there, a whistle of any sort at all. Am I correct in that? Okay. Some of the things that I started looking into and I started talking to other folks up there is we certainly need some kind of an emergency notification system. Even in the middle of the night, people are asleep. At least something can happen and alarm these people, get these people up that are way back in Shenandoah, and at least maybe give them a chance to get out off that mountain or out of there, and at least get out of bed. Some of the things that I started doing was going and getting on the internet and just simply looking at these type systems in some of the places. There's a place out in Arizona that has it. Ultimately, that particular county doesn't control it. It's controlled out of Phoenix, Arizona. But here's some of the things that I would push for, and I want the board to be aware of what I'm doing, that they don't think I'm some loose cannon out there that trying to, just to run something and make it a political issue, because it's not a political issue to me. It's an issue of life and death. Shenandoah is the largest subdivision in this entire state. There's not hundreds of thousands, there's millions of dollars of property up there on Shenandoah. There's thousands and thousands of lives up there in Shenandoah. When you start talking about kids and moms and dads and families that have been there for years, and even the wildlife, you're talking a lot of money invested. Shenandoah deserves, I think, in my mind, at least some kind of a system in place to where we can allow our people a chance to get off that mountain if it goes ablaze. I'm pushing for that we get ourselves a system up there that will notify all the people on the mountain, no matter what time of day it is, by sending an audible alarm, somehow whistle that goes off, the alarm that goes off and calls everybody into the fire department. I'm looking for that. I want a system in place that will not only call cell phones, but also call people's residential phones. I'm looking for a system in place that notifies all the local radio stations. I want to see a system in place that notifies all the cable companies, and the cable companies have to put the emergency out across the television. People can be sitting watching TV and not know anything's happening. The point in all this is that it will give people a chance to get off the mountain and stay alive. I think the longer that they say, well, this is that good old boy idea that I've faced since I grew up in West Virginia, has got to come to an end. And Josh said it very well. It's only a matter of time before this is going to happen. And people think that it can't happen. All they got to do is look at the wildfires in California and how many people lost their lives and how much of a big area that was totally taken away by the fire.
Gatlinburg, Tennessee, that's closer.
Yeah.
If you've ever been there.
So I want the board to be aware of what I'm doing. I'd like to have the board's blessing at some point, not right now, but I just want you all to be aware that I am do plan to be contacting our communication center to find exactly what we have in place at this time. To the best of my knowledge, I don't think we even have a reverse 911 system in place. I mean, that's the bare minimum. I did correspond with Twiggy, and he told me about the system that they have over in Loudoun County. So just so everybody knows what I'm doing, that's what I'm pushing for. So as I develop more information on this, I know that this is going to cost some money, that you've got to develop and have a special software to do this that would have to be interfaced with our communication system. But I think it's something that as a citizen representative on this board, and since we are to function in some manner as a fire board, I think it's a serious issue and we need to look at it. And I plan on doing that going forward. So that's basically all I had.
This is Dr. Treese. Can I make a comment? I actually meet with the Emergency Command Center on a monthly basis. So if I could be of any help to introducing you to that process, because that would be, I think, where your reverse 911 call would come from. Just reach out to me if you want to, if I can invite you to a meeting to meet with them, just, connect you guys. I'd be more than happy to do that.
Okay, I thank you. Appreciate it. That's all I have.
Mr. Harris, I just want to add that I know emergency management, Steve Allen's group, they currently have an alerting system called Nixle that you can sign up for. But I think there are, you may want to check with him about what that does. I know it sends out like texts and emails, and I know we're doing a lot more, but I don't know if there are there layers to that you could build onto, or it might work out.
Well, the one where I know when I said cell phones and residential phones and all that, a lot of people turn their cell phones off at night. My cell phone never goes off. I have the app on my cell phone where I can, when I hear the sirens go by, I can at least go into that app and hear what's happening in the communications. A lot of people were unaware that we even had that capability if you had a cell phone.
Right.
So we've tried to update them and make them aware of that as the best we can. But you can't get to everybody. So my idea behind this point of having, that they have to notify across the TV and across the radio station and call people's home phones with a certain message and cell phones. I think you've got to try to cover all the bases there. And I don't think that's asking too much for us as a representative of these people to do that.
Thanks, sir. Any other board members have anything to bring forth or comments or?
Before you adjourn, thank you all of you for your support and partnership this year, and I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
I just would like to say one thing, and that's not only for the board members, but also for staff, that something was brought to my attention, brought to Bob Foss's attention, I think some other folks, but just remember that as a representative and an employee of this agency, you need to do things above, especially if you're in uniform, especially since people know that you work for the agency, that the things that you say and do in your personal life can come back to bite you and bite the agency. So I just want people to understand that we're all under a microscope, and myself included, being in law enforcement for the federal government. I carry a body camera, and I understand that everybody's got one of these, and everything that I say and everything that I do, even in my personal life, it can come back to haunt me in my professional life and everything else. And I want to reinforce that as an agency, as employees of this county, and the work that we do for the citizens, that we need to hold ourselves a little bit higher, treat each other a little bit better, treat the public as what they are. They pay our salaries, they put us here, they ask us to do things for them. So just make sure that when you do things that you go, everything's going to be on camera and it's going to get out, and you don't want to answer for the things that you say and do. So That's all I had. And like the director said, I just want everybody to have a good Merry Christmas. So can I get a?
I got one thing for you.
Okay.
A bit, it's good news to everybody. It's wonderful news. I'm sure everyone has heard of the Tunnels to Towers Foundation. The Tunnels to Towers Foundation recently paid off the mortgage of the fiance of firefighter Young, who was a 167 fireman in Martinsburg, who was killed in the line of duty almost a year now, coming up 27. But that foundation paid for his fiance's mortgage. So it's wonderful that those things do work. I found that out through my mom. She donates to this agency, and they sent out a quarterly newsletter. This was printed in it, so I thought that was just very awesome news that
Good.
that was done.
Well, now you've just brought into my mind something that happened, and I can't remember. Did it happen? When did the barn fires? Wednesday night?
Oh, it's past week, yeah. Past week.
I'm glad that, as far as I know, everybody was good. I guess we've got some sheep and some lambs and everything else that were in some things, but I'm glad that when you guys responded, that I was under the understanding when I listened to everything that it was on a holding. We were not going into this building, that it was basically, and I think that's the wise decision. Unfortunately, this young man lost his life, and I don't want that to happen again. I think we did a good job that night. Barn burned down, but nobody goes in. So other than that, any other, before we, can I get a motion to adjourn? Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor of adjourning the December meeting of the JCESA, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.